It seems that I have always been ahead of my time, Serbian-American engineer and physicist Nikola Tesla once mused. While the eccentric inventor pioneered advances in radio, television, motors, robotics, and electricity, including the alternating current technology that's widely used today, he also proposed more outlandish ideas. The following 6 futuristic visions of his have yet to come to fruition, either because of limitations of technology or market viability. 1. Earthquake machine. In 1893, Tesla patented a steam-powered mechanical oscillator that would vibrate up and down at high speeds to generate electricity. Years after patenting his invention, he told reporters that one day, while attempting to tune his mechanical oscillator to the vibration of the building housing his New York City laboratory, he caused the ground to shake. The father of modern electricity told what had happened as follows: "I was experimenting with vibrations. I had one of my machines going, and I wanted to see if I could get it in tune with the vibration of the building. I put it up notch after notch. There was a peculiar cracking sound. I asked my assistants, where did the sound come from? They did not know. I put the machine up a few more notches. There was a louder cracking sound. I knew I was approaching the vibration of the steel building. I pushed the machine a little higher. Suddenly all the heavy machinery in the place was flying around. I grabbed a hammer and broke the machine. The building would have been about our ears in another few minutes. Outside in the street there was pandemonium. The police and ambulances arrived. I told my assistants to say nothing. We told the police it must have been an earthquake. That's all they ever knew about it." Some shrewd reporter asked Dr. Tesla at this point what he would need to destroy the Empire State Building, and the doctor replied, "Vibration will do anything. It would only be necessary to step up the vibrations of the machine to fit the natural vibration of the building, and the building would come crashing down. That's why soldiers break step crossing a bridge." 2. Thought camera. Tesla believed it could be possible to photograph thoughts. The inspiration came while he was doing experiments. In 1893, I became convinced that a definite image formed in thought must by reflex action produce a corresponding image on the retina, which might be read by a suitable apparatus, Tesla wrote in 1933. At the age of 78. This brought me to my system of television, which I announced at the time. My idea was to employ an artificial retina receiving an object of the image seen, an optic nerve and another retina at the place of reproduction, both being fashioned somewhat like a checkerboard, with the optic nerve being a part of the earth. The idea that a picture could potentially be recorded from the retina was not unusual at the time. In fact, it was generally accepted that the last thing a dying person would see would be fixed on the retina for an undetermined amount of time. Scientists also believed that, if done within a certain time frame, the picture of a murderer could be found on the victim's retina. It is clear that researchers of the time believed the human eye was a kind of camera with the functionality of recording, an assumption that was amplified by the discovery of rhodopsin, is a very light-sensitive red dye in the rods of the retina in 1887. Nikola Tesla was of the mind that a receiver is basically the same thing as a broadcaster, and he invented a machine that, as a byproduct of television, continually projects thoughts inside people. At the same time, experiments began among photographers to try to create photographs. If Tesla's predictions were correct, what would that mean for the future of privacy? Would our thoughts no longer belong to us, or could they be exploited? 3. Wireless energy. In 1901, Tesla secured $150,000 from financier J.P. Morgan to build a 185-foot-tall, mushroom-shaped tower on the north shore of Long Island, capable of transmitting messages, telephony and images to ships at sea and across the Atlantic Ocean by using the Earth to conduct signals. As work began on the structure, called Wardenclyffe Tower, Tesla wanted to adapt it to allow for wireless power delivery, believing from his experiments on radio and microwaves that he could light up New York City by transmitting millions of volts of electricity through the air. Morgan, however, refused to give Tesla any additional funding for his grandiose scheme. Some speculate that Morgan cut off funds once he realized that Tesla's plan would have crippled his other energy sector holdings. Tesla abandoned the project in 1906 before it could ever become operational, and Wardenclyffe Tower was dismantled in 1917. 4. Artificial tidal wave. The engineer and physicist believed the power of science could be harnessed to prevent war. In 1907, the New York World reported on another of Tesla's military innovations, in which wireless telegraphy would trigger the detonations of high explosives at sea to generate tidal waves so vast that they would capsize entire enemy fleets. The newspaper reported that the artificial tidal wave would make navies as useless as the paper boats that babies float in bathtubs, and foreshadowing later claims about the development of nuclear weapons by its horrors hasten the day of universal peace. 5. Electric-powered supersonic airship. From the time Tesla was a boy, he had been fascinated with the idea of flight. Combining his knowledge of electrical and mechanical engineering, he began to think more about aviation after the failure of Wardenclyffe. In an article in the July 1919 issue of Reconstruction magazine, Tesla discussed his work on developing a supersonic aircraft that would travel 8 miles above the surface of the Earth and generate speeds allowing passengers to travel between New York City and London in 3 hours. Tesla's concept called for the aircraft to be powered by electricity transmitted wirelessly from power plants on the ground, eliminating the need for aircrafts to carry fuel. The power supply is virtually unlimited, as any number of power plants can be operated together, supplying energy to airships just as trains running on tracks are now supplied with electrical energy through rails or wires, Tesla said in the article. Unmanned airships might even be used to transport passengers to a pre-selected destination or for a remote aerial strike. He was never given credit for his invention. However, today, we have unmanned drones carrying out combat missions, supersonic airplanes that fly at amazing speeds, and space shuttle technology that can circle the Earth in the upper atmosphere. It was long suspected that the FBI literally stole all of his work, research, and inventions that he had in his possession when he died. This rumor has now been confirmed by recent, heavily redacted Freedom of Information Act requests released by the FBI. 6. Death beam. Tesla's creative mind continued to spark new visions even late in his life. On his 78th birthday, he told the New York Times that he had come up with this most important invention, one that would cause armies of millions to drop dead in their tracks. The invention? A military weapon that would accelerate mercury particles at 48 times the speed of sound inside a vacuum chamber and shoot a high-velocity beam through the free air of such tremendous energy that it will bring down a fleet of 10,000 enemy airplanes at a distance of 250 miles. Although the press dubbed it a death beam, Tesla believed it a peace beam that would foil attacks by airplanes and invading armies and save lives by acting like an invisible Chinese wall, only 1,000,000 times more impenetrable. Tesla himself entered the death ray fray in characteristically brash form in July 1934 when he announced that he had invented a way to send concentrated particles through the air. The death beam, reported the New York Times, would be a defensive weapon that could kill an army of 1 million in an instant and make every nation safe against any attack by a would-be invader. In a letter to a colleague at Westinghouse, a few months before the announcement, Tesla admitted that he was at a loss to see how to carry it out and that the project was likely to never have funding, but that he felt it was a solution of the most pressing problem of humanity, that of ensuring peace. The inventor floated the idea of a peace-oriented ray to multiple governments, but as World War II marched into inevitability, the expense and dubious effectiveness of the never-demonstrated ray led to its abandonment. Tesla was famously taciturn about his invention, and today it is unclear whether funding, simple logistics, or political dealings turned the ray into the stuff of mere sci-fi. Thank you for watching. Please leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe.